July 2nd, 1937. Somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, a woman's voice crackles through the static. "We must be on you but cannot see you. Gas is running low." Then, silence. The world's most famous female pilot, flying a gleaming silver aircraft at the edge of human capability, simply vanishes. No wreckage, no bodies, no answers. For nearly 90 years, the mystery has haunted us. What happened to Amelia Earhart? This is the story of a woman who refused to stay on the ground. Amelia Mary Earhart was born on July 24, 1897, in Atchison, Kansas, a small town in America's heartland. Her childhood was marked by instability. Her family moved frequently, struggling with financial troubles and her father's alcoholism. Life was unpredictable, sometimes painful. But from the earliest age, Amelia was different. While other girls were taught to be quiet and proper, she climbed trees, hunted rats with a rifle, and filled scrapbooks not with movie stars, but with newspaper clippings about women succeeding in fields dominated by men. In a world determined to push her into a narrow domestic role, she was already quietly rebelling. During World War I, she worked as a nurse's aide in Canada, caring for wounded soldiers and witnessing the brutal cost of modern warfare. After the war, she drifted through different jobs and educational paths, searching for something that truly excited her. She hadn't found it yet. Then came December 1920. At an airfield in Long Beach, California, a pilot named Frank Hawks took Amelia up for a short 10-minute flight. The airplane lifted from the ground, the landscape fell away beneath her, and in that moment, as she would later recall, she knew she had to learn to fly. Learning to fly was expensive, especially for a young woman without wealth. Amelia worked as a photographer, drove trucks, and took shifts at a telephone company to pay for lessons. Her instructor was another pioneering woman pilot, Anita Netta Snuck, who taught her in an old second-hand biplane. It was noisy, dangerous, and far from glamorous. But to Amelia, it was freedom. In 1921, she bought her first airplane, a bright yellow Kinner Airster biplane she nicknamed the Canary. It was small and underpowered, but it allowed her to push her skills and her courage further than ever before. On October 22, 1922, she climbed to an altitude of 14,000 feet, setting an unofficial world altitude record for women. In an era when many still considered flying itself to be madness, and flying as a woman even more unthinkable, this was more than a number. It was a statement. By 1923, she became one of the first women in the world and the first in the United States to receive an international pilot's license from the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale. But aviation was a fragile career. Health problems and money troubles forced her to step back from flying for a time. She took office jobs, worked in social services in Boston, quietly rebuilding her life. Perhaps without realizing it, she was waiting for her next opportunity to take off. That opportunity arrived in 1928. A team of promoters were looking for a woman to join a transatlantic flight. They wanted someone who could fly, who looked the part, and who could become a symbol. They found Amelia Earhart. In June 1928, she joined pilot Wilmer Stultz and mechanic Lewis Gordon on a flight from Newfoundland to Wales. She didn't pilot the plane, she was essentially a passenger. But when they landed safely after more than 20 hours in the air, she became the first woman to cross the Atlantic by airplane. The public called her Lady Lindy, comparing her to Charles Lindbergh, who had flown solo across the Atlantic a year earlier. Overnight, she became famous. But Amelia knew the truth. She had been a passenger, not a pilot, and that wasn't enough. On May 20th, 1932, Amelia Earhart climbed into a red Lockheed Vega at an airfield in Newfoundland. This time, she was going to do what no woman had ever done: fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. She took off in the evening, aiming for Paris, echoing Lindbergh's famous flight 5 years earlier. The flight was a nightmare. Over the Atlantic, she faced freezing temperatures and violent storms. Ice formed on the wings, the plane shuddered in turbulence, a fuel leak developed, the altimeter failed. At one point, flames burst from a crack in the engine manifold. Despite all of this, she kept going. Alone in the cockpit, with nothing but instruments, instinct, and determination separating her from disaster. After roughly 15 hours in the air, she realized she couldn't safely reach Paris. Instead, she brought the plane down in a field near Londonderry in Northern Ireland. She had not reached her original target, but she had achieved something historic. She was the first woman to fly solo, non-stop across the Atlantic, and only the second person in history to do so. This time, there was no doubt about her role. She was pilot, navigator, and commander. For this achievement, she received the Distinguished Flying Cross and international acclaim. But Amelia didn't stop. Over the next years, she continued setting records. She became the first person, man or woman, to fly solo from Honolulu, Hawaii to Oakland, California. She made record-setting flights across the United States and pushed the boundaries of long-distance aviation. She used her fame strategically. She wrote books, gave lectures, and appeared on radio programs, presenting aviation not as a dangerous stunt, but as a practical, exciting part of the future. Her image, leather jacket, trousers, short hair, became a symbol of a new kind of woman: professional, confident, unafraid. She helped found the 99s, an international organization for women pilots, and became its first president. She spoke out for women's rights, supported the Equal Rights Amendment, and counseled young women at Purdue University to pursue careers in science and engineering. When she married publisher George Putnam in 1931, she insisted on a partnership based on mutual respect and independence. She reportedly wrote him a letter before their wedding, making it clear she would not be a traditional, submissive wife. By the mid-1930s, Amelia Earhart had become more than just a pilot. She was a cultural icon, a feminist symbol, and a voice for progress. But she had one more dream. She wanted to fly around the world. Not just any route. She would follow roughly the equator, making it one of the longest and most challenging flights ever attempted. For this mission, she chose a twin-engine Lockheed Model 10E Electra, specially modified with extra fuel tanks for long-range flight. She wouldn't fly alone. Her navigator would be Fred Noonan, an experienced seaman and aerial navigator who had worked for Pan American Airways. Her first attempt began in March 1937, heading west from California toward Hawaii. But during takeoff in Honolulu, the Lockheed Electra was damaged in a ground accident. The plane had to be shipped back to the mainland for repairs. After months of preparation, Amelia decided to try again, this time flying in the opposite direction. In June 1937, she and Noonan departed from Oakland and began their journey around the planet. They crossed South America. They flew over the Atlantic to Africa. They crossed the Indian Ocean to Southeast Asia, then continued to Australia. By the end of June, they had completed most of the world flight and arrived in Lae, in what is now Papua New Guinea. Only one major leg remained. From Lae, they would fly over 4,000 kilometers of open ocean to a tiny speck of land called Howland Island, a remote coral atoll in the Central Pacific. The island was so small that from the air, especially in poor visibility, it could be nearly impossible to spot. To support the flight, the United States Coast Guard positioned a ship, the Itasca, near Howland Island. Its job was to maintain radio contact and send navigation signals. On July 2, 1937, at 10,000 feet above the Pacific, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan took off from Leh in the early morning darkness. During the flight, radio communications became increasingly troubled. There were difficulties with frequencies, misunderstandings about which bands to use, possible problems with the plane's equipment. As they approached the area where Howland should be, Earhart's voice came through the static. She reported they believed they were near the island but could not see it. Fuel was running low. She asked for bearings, trying to home in on signals from the Itasca. At one point, she transmitted, "We are running on line north and south." Then suddenly, the transmissions stopped. No more messages came from Amelia Earhart or Fred Noonan. The sky over the Pacific fell silent. The disappearance triggered one of the largest and most expensive search operations in peacetime history. U.S. Navy and Coast Guard ships and aircraft searched tens of thousands of square miles of ocean, scanning for any sign of wreckage or survivors. Days turned into weeks. Nothing was found. No plane, no bodies, no floating debris. In 1939, after extended investigations and no evidence of survival, Amelia Earhart was officially declared dead in absentia. The most accepted explanation was simple and tragic. Unable to locate Howland Island and running out of fuel, Earhart and Noonan likely crashed into the ocean. The plane sank to the seafloor in waters thousands of feet deep. It was plausible, but the lack of physical evidence left room for doubt. Over the decades, numerous theories have emerged. Some researchers believe they may have landed on Nikumaro, a remote island in what is now Kiribati, where artifacts and bones have been discovered that some interpret as evidence of castaways. Others have proposed more dramatic scenarios, that she was captured by Japanese forces, that she survived under a new identity. But these theories remain speculative, disputed, unproven. What unites them all is a single gap: the absence of definitive physical proof. As long as the wreckage remains undiscovered, the mystery invites new interpretations. Whatever truly happened over the Pacific in 1937, Amelia Earhart's impact did not vanish with her airplane. She proved that women could not only participate, but excel in one of the most demanding fields of her time. At a moment when airplanes were still fragile, experimental machines, she flew long distances in extreme conditions, setting records that inspired both men and women to dream bigger. For women's rights, she offered not just words, but an example. She lived a life that challenged traditional gender roles in marriage, work, and public life. She was visible, outspoken, and unapologetic about her ambitions. Her image, short hair, flying jacket, confident gaze, has appeared in films, novels, documentaries, and museum exhibits around the world. Schools, airports, scholarships, and awards bear her name, encouraging new generations to pursue careers in science, technology, and aviation. Amelia Earhart once wrote, "Adventure is worthwhile in itself." To her, risk was not something to avoid at all costs, but something to weigh against the possibility of growth, discovery, and progress. On her final flight, she pushed the limits of navigation, endurance, and technology in an era when long-distance flying was still young. She knew the dangers. She went anyway. Today, when airplanes cross oceans in hours and satellites map every corner of the globe, it might be hard to imagine the uncertainty she faced in that cockpit. Perhaps that's why her story still resonates. She reminds us that progress is never guaranteed, that every breakthrough carries a price, and that sometimes the people who move the world forward don't get to see how far it goes. The Pacific may continue to keep its secret, but the real measure of Amelia Earhart's journey may not be where it ended, or even whether we ever find her plane. It may lie in the distance her courage has traveled, across time, across generations, and across the imaginations of people who look up at the sky and wonder what might be waiting just beyond the horizon.